Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I share recipes, meal prep, and dinner inspiration. In this video, I'll be sharing another weekly meal plan for our family of 5 and take you through some of the planning and prep that went into it. I also have a few new recipes to share, so let's dive in. Here is my meal plan for the week. If you'd like to plan along with me, you can find a copy of this in the description box below. Those that have been following me know that I try to plan a crockpot and freezer meal each week. We also plan on a night of leftovers as well as a weekly pizza night. I find having these 4 options built in each week helps me with decision fatigue when it comes to planning. This week we'll be doing vegetable lasagna and Korean barbecue short ribs. And for our pizza night, we're going to do chicken bacon ranch. After going through my freezer and taking inventory, I decided on spaghetti and meatballs with the last of these frozen meatballs, pulled pork tacos with this leftover frozen pork from last week, and fried chicken salad since my freezer is fully stocked with these homemade chicken nuggets. Now let's move on to breakfast. I have just enough biscuits here for sandwiches one morning. I always have the ingredients on hand for my kids' favorite peanut butter oatmeal, and I want to make a big batch of pancakes for the freezer. For lunch, I found the last of these mini pot pies. I have some leftover naan also from last week. We can do pizza. And I wanted to make another batch of blackened chicken. I still have plenty of tortillas left over from last week, so we can do chicken quesadillas. I also want to make some pinto beans for our taco night, so we can do beans and rice for lunch the rest of the week. Our snacks will be the same as last week. We will be finishing up the last of these energy bites I made a few weeks ago. We also have some frozen cookie dough. Just making sure I have a few options on hand. I can already tell that next week I will likely be restocking some of our snacks. Now that my meal plan is complete, I'm going to study it a bit, making note of anything I can do that will help save me time during the week. For example, the next time I fry bacon, I'm going to fry enough for all 4 of these meals here. I can see that I have peanut butter oatmeal planned 3 times this week, so on that first morning I make this, I'm going to measure out the other 2 days worth. This blackened chicken will be used for quesadillas, and I'm also going to reserve some for our pizza. Lastly, I can see I have rice planned for 3 different meals, so when I make rice, I know I can make extra to cover at least one of these other meals here. Here I am Sunday night preparing for our week ahead. I am completely out of pizza crust, so I want to make a big batch for the freezer. Whenever I plan on prepping pizza, I start the night before. I find letting the dough slowly rise overnight yields a better crust. It will also save me some time in the morning. I've also got out my food processor for these crackers. These will be used for meatballs this week. Before I wash and put away that food processor, I'm going to throw together a baked oatmeal. For this recipe, you're going to need 3 very ripe mashed bananas, oats, milk, I like to use almond milk, eggs, baking powder, and a little bit of salt. I love this recipe because you can really play around with the ingredients. You can add peanut butter, honey, maple syrup, or chocolate chips for sweetness. Sometimes I add in chopped apples. Today I'm adding in some frozen blueberries, a 1/4 cup of artificial sweetener, and a 1/3 cup of almonds. I usually run the oats through my coffee grinder to make an oat flour. Doing so gives this more of a cake-like consistency. That step is optional though. You could just mix all your ingredients up in a bowl. I just used my food processor today because I already had it out. I'm topping this with some frozen blueberries. This is going to bake for at least an hour at 350 till it's nicely browned. This makes such a quick and filling breakfast in the morning. I'm usually up way before the kids and read to them their science or history lessons while they're eating breakfast, so I'm not actually eating with them. Having something like this prepped just for me works really well for us. Okay, here I am Monday morning making my coffee before I get going. I need to get these pinto beans started. I usually make these with a smoked ham hock, but our butcher didn't have one available this week, so I'm going to be relying on the seasonings to flavor this today. I also have a ton of vegetables to prep for different meals this morning, so as I shred, dice, and chop, I'll be tossing some of those into the crock pot. I'm going to start by shredding zucchini and carrots. This will be used in my lasagna and in those pinto beans. As I work, I'm measuring and reserving what I need for the lasagna. This purple onion and jalapeno are also going into the crock pot along with that shredded zucchini and carrots. I'm also adding a little minced garlic and some of that leftover pulled pork. Keep an eye on that water line if you're following along at home. Continuing with these veggies, I'm now chopping spinach for the lasagna, slicing some mushrooms I plan on using for pizza. What I don't reserve for pizza, I'm going to dice for my lasagna sauce. Now, green onion. This isn't for anything in particular. Green onion is just something I always pick up whenever I see it. The whole family loves it. We use it as garnish on pretty much anything. We'll sprinkle it on salad, rice, eggs, those beans I'm preparing. It's just a really good, inexpensive ingredient that adds so much flavor. Still chopping, I'm making a big jar of pico for the week. We will eat this with our tacos tonight and with the beans and rice at lunch and with our fried chicken salad for dinner this week. I was so happy to find cilantro at the store a few days ago. As soon as I brought it home, I washed it and dried it with my salad spinner. I then stuck it in a cup full of water, covering the top with plastic, like a little bouquet in my fridge. Another inexpensive garnish that adds so much flavor. We'll just be cutting off what we need as we need it. This cilantro will last us a full week, maybe more in the fridge stored this way. Last thing on my list as far as veggies go, this cucumber isn't going to last long. It's really hard for me to keep up with all the fresh fruit and veggies this family eats. Just taking a quick break before I start shredding cheese. Alright, now it's time to start shredding this cheese. I have Parmesan and mozzarella. This will be used for my pizza and my lasagna. Sprinkled over our beans and rice and in those chicken quesadillas. Now that I've got my cheese shredded and my veggies chopped and shredded, let's throw together these lasagnas. For this recipe, you're going to need spinach, carrots, zucchini, eggs, ricotta, lasagna noodles, mozzarella, Parmesan, an onion, butter, chicken broth, mushrooms, flour, and milk. I am doubling this recipe. Whenever I make anything in a casserole dish, I double the recipe, saving one for the freezer. Start by mixing that zucchini, carrots, spinach, ricotta, and eggs together in a big bowl. I also added a little bit of mozzarella and Parmesan in there. That's optional. Now for the sauce. Saute the onions in the butter. I've also added in a little minced garlic and add the mushrooms. Once that's good and hot and the onions are translucent, add in your flour. You want to let this cook a bit so your sauce doesn't end up tasting like raw flour. Now slowly add in the chicken broth and milk. I'm also adding in about a half cup of that Parmesan. Use your judgment as far as how much or how little of the Parmesan and mozzarella you want to use. Once that has thickened up, let it cool a bit and give it a taste, adding more salt, pepper, or cheese as needed. Now let's start assembling. I like to make my casseroles in this 11.5 by 8 inch baking dish. I just find this to be the perfect size for our family. However, I only have one of these and I can't always find the throwaway aluminum pans, so what I have here is my favorite baking dish as well as a plastic storage container of the same size. I've lined each one with plastic wrap, 2 sheets of plastic, completely covering the bottom and sides of my dishes. On the top of the plastic, I'm putting down a layer of parchment. I'm going to assemble these right on that parchment paper, starting with a layer of sauce. Next comes a layer of noodles, followed by the ricotta mixture, and then another layer of sauce. I'm going to repeat this layering one last time, ending with a layer of noodles, sauce, and cheese. By the way, you don't need to pre-boil these noodles. You don't even need to buy special no-boil noodles. These will soften when you bake. I promise they will come out perfectly. Now I'm going to pop these in the freezer. Once they are completely frozen, I will transfer them to a freezer bag. Okay, it's almost lunchtime, and at this point I was just feeling done in the kitchen. I made lunch for the kids and decided to work on some other things around the house until dinner. Once dinner rolled around, I threw that frozen pork in the oven and made a pot of rice. By this time my beans were done and dinner came together without much effort. Here I am, bright and early and a day later. I am starting off with that pizza dough. I typically try to get the bulk of my meal prep done in a day. I had the time on Monday, but I just didn't. Then we had some things come up on Tuesday, so I haven't had time to make it back to the kitchen to finish this prep. It is 6:45 Wednesday morning, and it is my goal to get these crusts baked before I have to walk my daughter to preschool at 8 o'clock. While I was waiting for each crust to bake, I threw together some bread dough. All right, the dough is rising, my pizza crusts are cooling, and we are just running a little bit late. Fortunately, it's a short walk to school. Once I got back, I pulled out those lasagnas. They are completely frozen. The one in the plastic came out easily. I had to take my scraper here to the sides of the one in my baking dish, but I got it. I'm going to transfer both of these to a plastic freezer bag. When I'm ready to bake, I will remove the plastic and parchment and place in my baking dish. To the freezer they go, along with those pizza crusts. It's 8:30 and my boys have been doing some independent schoolwork since about 7:30. They are now asking for pancakes. Usually on mornings we school, breakfast is pre-made from the freezer, but since we all got an early start today, I decided to make up some pancakes. And like I do, I doubled the recipe so we can have some for the freezer. It's now 10:16. My bread dough is about ready for me to portion out into loaves and my pancakes are cooling. Before I get started on that dough though, I wanted to throw together some seasonings. Last week I shared my blackening seasoning. Today I wanted to share the seasoned salt. We love Lawry's seasoned salt back in the States. It's just a great all-purpose seasoning, and this copycat recipe is amazing. For this recipe, you're going to need salt, paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, cornstarch, turmeric, and sugar. I'm doubling this recipe. I also wanted to quickly throw together some ranch dressing. For this recipe, you're going to need sour cream, mayonnaise, milk, chives, garlic, onion, dill, lemon, and salt and pepper to taste. Start by measuring out the milk and mixing in the lemon juice. That lemon is going to thicken up the milk. Set it aside while you mix together the rest of your ingredients. Once your milk has thickened up a bit, you can add it in. I only waited a minute or two. Whisk everything together. I find this to be the perfect consistency. It's thick but pourable, if that makes sense. Time to portion out this bread dough. I'm going to be making 2 sandwich loaves and 18 dinner rolls. I'll be using the dinner rolls as burger buns. In the past, I've made them smaller, dividing my dough into 15 pieces, but my boys have growing appetites, so I'm making the buns and burgers a bit bigger today, dividing my dough into 9 pieces. While my dough is rising for the second time, I'm going to start on my burger patties. I love having a stash of these burgers in my freezer. They make such a quick and easy lunch or dinner. They are so easy to heat and eat. Now it's time to start popping that bread into the oven. All right, done by lunch again. The kids and I ate rice and beans for lunch. This is our 3rd day eating this, so I will be freezing the leftovers today. We'll eat them for lunch another day. Before I call it quits in the kitchen, I want to chop up some veggies. Those cucumbers I chopped on Monday are all gone. So I'm arranging a little veggie tray for the fridge. I love having a tray of already prepared veggies, and this makes such a quick and easy snack or side to any meal, especially since I have that homemade ranch dressing in the fridge. Okay, here I am at dinner. I'm popping that frozen lasagna into a baking dish. I'm going to cover it with foil and bake at 350 for an hour till heated through. Once it's done, I'm going to remove the foil and let it continue to bake for another 5 minutes until that cheese is golden brown. All right, another productive day in the kitchen. I've still got my bread cooling. I will be flash freezing those dinner rolls tonight. I have my hamburger patties ready to go. I will assemble them in the morning. I even made a few brownie mixes. I will have to share that with y'all next week. I've got my veggie tray, some seasonings, and my homemade ranch. That was the bulk of my meal prep. Here I am Thursday, bagging up those pancakes, assembling those burgers, and putting the leftover beans in a freezer bag. At lunch today, I made a big batch of that blackened chicken that I shared with you all last week. We have been eating this like crazy. We will be using it for quesadillas for the next few days at lunch. I will be using it for wraps with that pico. I will also be using it to top our frozen pizzas. I don't always fully assemble our frozen pizzas, but I am this week in an effort to preserve those mushrooms, onions, and bacon from earlier this week. This made us enough pizza for the next few weeks. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you found this content helpful and encouraging. Remember, most of my videos are time-stamped, making it easy to hop back to a specific recipe if you need to. Please like this video if you thought it was helpful, share it if you think it's worth sharing, and tap on that subscribe button if you haven't already and want to see more. Until next time.